I heard the locks click before I heard my father say the words. "You're a liability, Nancy. And liabilities don't live under my roof." I was 19. 6 months pregnant. And standing in the rain with one suitcase and $43 in my checking account. That night, I promised myself something. One day, I'd come back. And when I did, he'd remember exactly what a liability looks like. My name is Nancy Mitchell, and for most of my life, I thought I understood how family worked. You follow the rules. You make them proud. You become exactly what they designed you to be. My father, Richard Mitchell, owned a commercial real estate firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. 3 office buildings downtown, a development company, and a reputation that opened every door in the city. My mother, Linda, was the perfect accessory: charity galas, country club brunches, and a smile that never reached her eyes when the cameras turned off. I was their only child. The plan was simple: graduate from Chapel Hill, marry someone pre-approved from their social circle, work at the firm until I produced grandchildren, then fade into the background like my mother had. I followed the script perfectly. Until I met Daniel. Daniel worked at a coffee shop near campus. He was getting his associate degree in graphic design at night school. He had kind eyes and absolutely zero interest in impressing my parents. We fell in love the way college kids do: fast, messy, and completely blind to everything outside our little bubble. When I told my parents I was pregnant at the end of my sophomore year, I actually thought they'd understand. Maybe even help. I was so stupid. If you've ever had your whole world flip in 60 seconds, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Because what happened next taught me that blood doesn't mean loyalty. My father didn't yell. That's what I remember most clearly. He sat behind his mahogany desk in our home office, fingers steepled like a judge, and delivered my sentence in the same tone he used for business deals. "You've made your choice, Nancy. Now you'll live with the consequences." My mother stood by the window, back turned, silent. I told them about the pregnancy. About Daniel. About wanting to take a semester off and figure things out. "We'll pay for a termination," my father said. Quietly. "Then you'll go back to school like none of this happened. I'm keeping the baby." The room went cold. "Then you're keeping it somewhere else." He opened a desk drawer and pulled out a thin folder. "I've had Mark prepare papers severing you from the family trust, the health insurance, and any financial support tied to this household." Mark. Mark Brennan. My father's personal attorney and best friend since law school. The man who'd been at every birthday party, every Christmas dinner. Who'd called me kiddo and slipped me $20 bills when I was little. "Dad, please. The decision is made." He slid the papers across the desk. "You have until Sunday to remove your belongings. After that, the locks will be changed." I looked at my mother. She was still staring out the window. "Mom?" "Nothing. Not a word. Not a glance." That was the moment I understood. They'd already decided. Together. Before I'd even walked into that room. Daniel tried. I'll give him that. For about 8 months, he really tried. We moved into a studio apartment in a rough part of Charlotte. I worked double shifts waitressing while my belly grew. Daniel picked up freelance design gigs between his classes. We were broke, exhausted, and terrified. Then our daughter was born. Emma. 7 pounds, 2 ounces. Perfect. Daniel looked at her once in the hospital and I saw it in his eyes, the panic. The realization that this was real and permanent and harder than anything he'd signed up for. He left 3 weeks later. No fight. No dramatic exit. Just a note on the counter and an empty closet. I'm sorry. I can't do this. I'm not ready. So there I was. 20 years old. Alone. With a newborn and rent due in 5 days. I could have broken. Part of me wanted to. But every time I looked at Emma, I remembered my father's voice. Liability. And I made a choice. I'd prove him wrong. Not by begging for forgiveness. Not by crawling back. By becoming someone he'd never see coming. Here's what they don't tell you about revenge: it's boring. It's spreadsheets and night classes and coffee at 3 in the morning while your baby sleeps in a secondhand bassinet. I enrolled in community college. Online courses. Accounting and finance. I worked 3 jobs: morning shift at a diner, afternoon childcare co-op where Emma could stay with me, evening data entry from home. Every dollar I didn't spend on rent and diapers went into one thing: education. By the time Emma was 2, I'd transferred to a 4-year program. By the time she was 4, I had my bachelor's in finance. By the time she was 6, I had my MBA and a position as a junior analyst at a regional investment firm. Not in Charlotte. I stayed away. I watched from a distance. I also watched my father's business. Commercial real estate is public record. Loans, liens, mortgages, they're all there if you know where to look. And I'd become very, very good at looking. Richard Mitchell's empire was crumbling. Slowly. Quietly. But crumbling. The 2020 recession hit his portfolio hard. Office vacancies skyrocketed. His cash flow dried up. He'd over-leveraged on a development deal in 2019 that never got off the ground. By 2023, he was missing payments. By 2024, he was underwater. And the man holding his debt? Mark Brennan. The trusted attorney. The family friend. Except Mark wasn't holding it as a favor. He'd structured the loans himself. High interest. Short terms. Terrible clauses. He was slowly stripping my father of everything, and my father either didn't see it or couldn't admit it. That's when I made my move. Here's the thing about debt: it's transferable. You can buy it. And if you buy it, you control it. In March of 2025, I walked into Mark Brennan's law office in Charlotte. Not as Nancy Mitchell, the daughter he remembered. As Nancy Clark, Senior Acquisitions Manager for a private equity firm based in Atlanta. I'd changed my last name after Emma was born. Legally. Cleanly. Nancy Mitchell was dead. Nancy Clark was a different woman entirely. Mark didn't recognize me. 7 years, a new hairstyle, professional clothes, and a confidence I'd built from nothing, I was invisible to him. Mr. Brennan, I said, sitting across from his desk. I represent a firm interested in acquiring distressed commercial debt in the Charlotte area. We understand you hold several significant notes. His eyes lit up. Of course they did. He was bleeding my father dry and looking for an exit. I might have a few assets that could interest you. We talked numbers. I kept my face neutral. Inside, my heart was a drum. He wanted to sell my father's debt. All of it. $3 million in loans, penalties, and compounded interest. My father owed Mark everything. And Mark wanted out before the whole thing collapsed. I offered $2.7 million. Cash. Immediate close. He took it. 2 weeks later, I owned my father. If this is hitting you in a certain way, if you've ever waited years to prove someone wrong, hit that like button and subscribe. Because what happened next made every sleepless night worth it. I didn't go to see him right away. That would have been too easy. Instead, I sent a letter. Certified mail. To Richard Mitchell, personal and confidential. It was 1 page. Typed. Professional. Dear Mr. Mitchell. This letter serves as formal notification that all outstanding debts previously held by Mark Brennan, ESQ, have been acquired by Clark Capital Management. Effective immediately, I am the primary lien holder on the following properties. I listed everything. His office buildings. The development land. Even the mortgage on the house I grew up in, the one he'd refinanced to cover his losses. The letter continued. Per the terms of the existing loan agreements, full payment is due within 90 days. Failure to remit will result in foreclosure proceedings. Please contact our office to discuss restructuring options. Sincerely, Nancy Clark, Senior Acquisitions Manager. I didn't sign it with my real name. Not yet. I wanted him to sweat first. He called within 24 hours. My assistant patched him through. This is Richard Mitchell. I need to speak with Nancy Clark immediately. I let him wait on hold for 7 minutes. Mr. Mitchell, I said, my voice cool. How can I help you? There's been a mistake. Mark Brennan holds my loans. I've been working with him for 3 years. Mr. Brennan sold your debt to our firm. The sale was legal and binding. The terms remain unchanged. I need more time. I have deals in the pipeline. Then I suggest you close them quickly. You have 87 days. I want to meet in person. I don't do business over the phone. I smiled at my desk in Atlanta, alone in my office. Of course. I'll be in Charlotte next week. My assistant will send you an appointment time. He hung up. I sat back in my chair and let myself feel it, the first real taste of power. The meeting was set for a Thursday afternoon. 2 o'clock. My father's office. I drove up from Atlanta the night before. Emma stayed with my neighbor, a retired teacher who'd become like a grandmother to her. I told her I had a business trip. Which was true. Just not the kind she imagined. I wore a navy suit. Heels. My hair pulled back. I looked every inch the corporate professional I'd become. When I walked into the building, I felt it, every memory. Every time I'd come here as a kid, thinking I'd work here one day. Be part of his legacy. The receptionist led me to his office. The same mahogany desk. The same window. Even the same chair I'd sat in 7 years ago when he called me a liability. My father stood when I entered. Older now. Grayer. Tired. Ms. Clark, he said, extending a hand. I shook it. His grip was firm but desperate. Mr. Mitchell. We sat. He had papers spread across his desk, financials, projections, plans. He started talking immediately. Numbers. Proposals. Extensions. I let him finish. Then I leaned forward and said, very quietly, "Do you recognize me?" He stopped. Stared. I watched it happen. The confusion. The squint. The flicker of recognition. The denial. Then the shock. Nancy? Hello, Dad. The color drained from his face. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. Which, in a way, he had. You're. I'm the person who owns everything you have left. I kept my voice steady. Professional. $3 million, Dad. That's what you owe me now. Not Mark. Me. He sat back, breathing hard. This isn't legal. This is revenge. This is business. You taught me that, remember? Don't mix emotions with transactions. Nancy, please. You want to know the funny part? I opened my briefcase and pulled out a second folder. Mark Brennan didn't just sell me your debt. I also have documentation showing how he structured those loans. The interest rates. The clauses. The penalties. I slid the papers across the desk. He was robbing you, Dad. For 3 years. His own best friend. And you never saw it. Too proud to get a second opinion. Too sure that family and loyalty meant something. He looked at the documents. His hands shook. I'm going to offer you a deal, I continued. One time. You're going to sell the office buildings to a buyer I've arranged. The sale will cover $2.5 million of the debt. You'll keep the house, but you'll refinance it properly through a legitimate bank, not your corrupt attorney friend. And the rest? The remaining $500,000? You're going to create a trust. For Emma. My daughter. Your granddaughter. The one you never met because I was a liability. His mouth opened. Closed. You have 72 hours. After that, I foreclose on everything and you can explain to Mom why you're moving into a rental. I stood. He stayed seated, frozen. One more thing, I said at the door. Mark Brennan is being investigated by the state bar for ethics violations. Turns out I wasn't the only person he screwed over. I made sure they got a very detailed anonymous report. He'll be disbarred by the end of the year. I walked out. My legs didn't start shaking until I reached my car. My father took the deal. He didn't have a choice. The buildings sold. The trust was funded. Emma now has a college fund she'll never have to worry about. Mark Brennan lost his license 6 months later. Last I heard, he's working as a consultant in Florida. My father doesn't speak to him anymore. As for me and my dad? We don't have a relationship. Not really. He tried, once, to apologize. Called me. Said he'd made mistakes. Said he wanted to meet Emma. I told him I'd think about it. I haven't decided yet. Maybe one day. Maybe not. The truth is, I don't need his approval anymore. I don't need his name or his legacy or his validation. I built my own. Emma starts 2nd grade next month. She's smart, funny, and kind. She knows her grandfather exists, but she also knows that family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up. Who stays. Who loves you even when it's hard. My father taught me that people will abandon you the second you stop being useful. But Emma taught me something better, that you can survive being abandoned. You can rebuild. You can become stronger than anyone who underestimated you. So here's what I learned from all of this, and I really want you to hear this if you're going through something similar right now. Revenge isn't always loud. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's just proving that you were never the problem. It's showing up 7 years later with your life together while theirs is falling apart, not because you destroyed them, but because they destroyed themselves. My father didn't lose everything because of me. He lost it because he chose pride over family, control over trust, and a corrupt attorney over common sense. I just gave him the bill for those choices. And Mark? He destroyed himself the moment he decided loyalty was worth less than profit. I didn't ruin them. I just stopped protecting them from themselves. Here's the thing nobody tells you when you're at your lowest point, when someone calls you a liability, when they throw you out, when they decide you're not worth the trouble, they're giving you something. They're setting you free. Free to become whoever you want. Free to prove them wrong. Free to build a life they'll never control. I spent 7 years angry. But I spent those 7 years building. And that's the difference. If you're watching this and you've been kicked out, written off, or told you're not good enough, believe me when I say this, they're wrong. You are not a liability. You are not too much or too little or too broken. You are exactly what you need to be. And one day, you'll walk back into that room and they won't even recognize you. Because you'll be someone they never imagined you could become. Before you go, do me a favor. If this story meant something to you, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment telling me what you'd do differently. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. Sometimes we all need a reminder that rock bottom is just a foundation. My name is Nancy Clark. I used to be a liability. Now I'm the bank.